Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I'm Hasham. So last video I have started the topic profits and gains of business and profession. This is the third head of income. First, income from salary, income from house property, we have completed. Last video I have explained you what is business and what are the points to be considered while computing the income from business or profession. Similarly, what are the deductions allowed under that means the provisions under the provisions of Income Tax Act 1961 to compute the income from business or to compute the income from profession. Deductions are allowed. So normal rule is Income Tax Act says any expenditure incurred to earn the income should be allowed as deduction. Without spending the money, a person cannot be able to earn the income. So expenditure incurred. But if that general rule is given for everyone, then every assessee will try to give maximum deductions in order to reduce the tax liability. That's why Income Tax Act has given the provisions regarding deductions to be made while computing income from business. So last video, 6 deductions, specific deductions we have discussed. In this video, the remaining deductions, that means example of those deductions which commonly occur in most of the businesses, whether it is allowed or disallowed, that we have to know. Without understanding the provisions, we should not go to solve the problem in computing the profits and gains of business and profession. So if you watch these 2-3 videos on theory, then definitely you don't find any difficulty in solving the problems. Problems are based on these provisions which I am going to explain. So it's very important. Don't skip to watch the video till the end. So before explaining the deductions, take the screenshot of the points which I have written on the board. Now, 6 deductions already we have discussed in the last video. Now, 7th deduction onwards I am going to explain. Remuneration to the staff. Remuneration means the salary, allowances, perquisites or any other benefit which the assessee will give to the staff. That will be allowed as deduction. So salary, allowances, bonus, perquisites, commission, etc. paid to the employees and expenditure on welfare schemes to the employees are allowed as deduction. But one point you have to remember, salary is allowed as deduction even on due basis. If salary is not paid but become due, it will also be allowed. Whereas bonus and commission, this will be allowed only on payment basis. If it is due but not paid, it is not allowed as deduction. But sometimes what will happen, the assessee has not paid the bonus and commission till the last day of the previous year. But he has paid, the assessee has paid the bonus and commission before filing the return of income to the income tax department. So Income Tax Act has given one benefit. Even if the assessee has not paid the bonus and commission till the last day of the previous year, some extension of time is given. They have to pay at least before filing the return of income, then bonus and commission will be allowed. If it is not paid even at the time of filing the return, then it will not be allowed. Then perquisites provided. Perquisites means a benefit which is given either to employee or their family members, either monetary or non-monetary. That will also be allowed as deduction. So these are the points regarding remuneration to staff. Next one is health insurance of the employees. Sometimes medical and health insurance premium on the life, on the health of the employee will be paid by the employer. So Income Tax Act says if health and medical insurance premium on the health of the employees paid by the employer through check, it should be paid through check. then it will be allowed as deduction. If nothing is given in the problem, we assume that it is paid by check, so it is allowed. If it is paid in cash, not allowed. Next one, contribution to provident fund. Income Tax Act says employer paying the amount as contribution to provident fund, it will be allowed as deduction. Then interest on borrowings. Many a time a business will borrow the funds either from the friends or relatives or suppose from banks or from individuals, from any source. The money is borrowed by the business. On those borrowings, interest has to be paid. Interest has to be paid. So common example is a business will borrow from bank, take a loan from bank, then on that loan interest has to be paid. So Income Tax Act says if the loan is taken for the purpose of the business, then interest paid will be allowed as deduction. But one condition is there. If loan is taken from banks or financial institutions, then only on payment it will be allowed. If it is paid, it will be allowed. If it is due but not paid, not allowed as deduction. If the loan is taken from banks or financial institutions. If the loan is taken from any other individual, friend or relative like that, even interest is due, it will be allowed as deduction. And one more thing, if borrowings are made from a foreign country, then that means interest will be paid to a foreigner. In that case, tax should be deducted at source. TDS should be made from interest income. Then only it will be allowed. If without deducting the TDS, if interest is paid outside India, it will not be allowed as deduction. Next comes bad debts. Many a time a business will sell the goods on credit to the customers. If the business cannot be able to recover the money from the customers, it will be called bad debts. Or simple words, irrecoverable debt from the customers. The amount which is due from customers but cannot be received. It is not possible to receive. Then it will become a bad debt. It's a loss to the business. So Income Tax Act says it is unavoidable. Most of the businesses, almost every business will sell the goods on credit, and every business there is a possibility of bad debts. So bad debts will be allowed as deduction provided some conditions are given. The conditions are the sales should be made in the earlier years on account of that bad debt occurred. Similarly, the SSC has taken all the steps to recover the amount, but still the SSC failed to recover the amount. Then it will be allowed as bad debts. But in the problem, all the conditions are not given, may not be given. So we have to make the assumption that the SSC has satisfied all the conditions. So bad debts can be allowed as deduction. Expenditure on scientific research. Many businesses will incur expenditure on scientific research. In this case, two types of research are there. In-home research and outside research. Sometimes the business will make their own laboratory in which they are conducting the research. They are spending the money, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure incurred on scientific research in the company itself, having their own laboratory, having their own scientist. In that case, Income Tax Act says if it is a revenue expenditure, fully allowed as deduction. And if it's a capital expenditure, also fully allowed as deduction, provided on land there is no deduction. If the expenditure is on land, no deduction. If the capital expenditure on any other asset, allowed. Revenue expenditure allowed, provided the research should be related to the business. Whatever scientific research is being done within the company, it must be related to the business. Then it will be allowed. Revenue expenditure fully allowed. Capital expenditure fully allowed except land. On land it will not be allowed. Contribution outside for scientific research. Sometimes a business will not have their own laboratory. They are not conducting scientific research within the company. So they will contribute the amount for scientific research to an outsider to conduct scientific research. In that case, contribution made for scientific research to outsider, whether it is related to the business or not, it will be allowed as deduction. So to whom it should be given? The contribution should be given to Scientific Research Association approved by the prescribed authority. The amount should be given to Scientific Research Association, which should be approved by a prescribed authority. Secondly, a university or college or other institution approved by the prescribed authority. Only to these institutions, that means Scientific Research Association or a college, university or college or any other institution which is approved by the prescribed authority. To these institutions, if scientific research contribution is made, then it will be allowed. If scientific contribution is made to an individual, not allowed as deduction. Now a weighted deduction at the rate of 100% will be allowed. Whatever amount of contribution made to outsider, completely allowed. For example, an SSC has paid 10,000 rupees to a university for scientific research. Complete 10,000 will be allowed as deduction. Next, patents, copyright, know-how, these are called intangible assets. Earlier, intangible assets were also allowed as deduction, but from 1/4/1998, the Income Tax Act says if any expenditure incurred on patent or know-how or copyright, if it is purchased after 1/4/1998, depreciation at the rate of 25% will be allowed. Depreciation on patents or copyright or know-how, it will be allowed at the rate of 25%. If it is purchased after 1/4/1998. But remember, goodwill is an intangible asset, but no depreciation is allowed on goodwill. Remember all these points. Then legal expenses. A number of legal expenses will be incurred by the SSC, by the business. Whether it is allowed or not, here the law says legal expense incurred in protecting the business is allowed as deduction. So any legal expenses in order to protect the business, it will be allowed. In the coming problem, only legal expenses will be given. So in that case, we assume that these legal expenses are to protect the business, so it is allowed as deduction. Similarly, legal expense for obtaining loans. Many a time, a company will incur legal expenses to obtain a loan from bank, from financial institution. So any legal expense paid to get the loan, allowed as deduction. Amount spent for opposing nationalization of SSC's business is allowed as deduction. Sometimes there will be nationalization of the business. Nationalization means the business will be taken over by the government. That is called nationalization. So the business will oppose the policy of nationalization. So any expenditure incurred in opposing the policy of nationalization, protecting the business from nationalization, that will be allowed as deduction. Next, legal expense incurred to protect the assets. To protect the assets, any legal expenditure is incurred, it will be allowed as deduction. So these are the points you have to remember regarding legal expense. Then security transaction tax, it is called STT. This security transaction tax will be applied whenever securities are bought and sold at a stock exchange. Many times an SSC will buy the securities or sell the securities in a stock exchange. So at the time of buying or at the time of selling, they have to pay security transaction tax. Now the question is whether security transaction tax is allowed as deduction or not. If the business is having income from securities, if the business is having income from securities and STT is paid, it will be allowed. If the business does not have income from security, but STT is paid, it will not be allowed as deduction. Next one is expenses incurred on Diwali. In India, one of the festival, Diwali, the businesses will incur expenditure on the occasion of Diwali. Income Tax Act says it will be allowed as deduction up to a reasonable amount. And it should be to the satisfaction of the income tax officer. So up to the satisfaction, reasonable amount will be allowed as deduction as expenditure on Diwali. Next, subscription to trade or professional journals. A business organization will subscribe for a number of journals. So any subscription amount paid for journal allowed as deduction. Next, lawful expense for illegal business. In the previous video, I told you that Income Tax Act is not bothered about legal business or illegal business. If you are having a business, you are earning the income, it will be put to tax. So, in order to protect the business, some legal expenses are incurred, some expenses are incurred for illegal business. It will also be allowed as deduction. It will be allowed as deduction. But if the payment is prohibited by law, it will not be allowed. Example, bribe given in order to conduct the illegal business. Bribe given to officials in order to conduct the illegal business. This bribe is against prohibited by law. So not allowed as deduction. Whereas some commission is paid to run the illegal business, it will be allowed as deduction because payment of commission is a legal expense. So to make the illegal business, some expenditure is allowed, it will be allowed. Tournament expenses, sometimes to promote the business, tournament expenses just like IPL. So to promote the business, tournament expenses are incurred, that will be allowed as deduction. Then audit fees, naturally, audit is the inspection of the accounts by the auditors. So expenditure on audit fees allowed. Expenditure on a holiday home. Some business houses, they will keep some holiday home to the employees. The employees can spend some time at the holiday home, right? So SSC can claim the deduction of expenditure on holiday home provided the business is having at least 100 full-time employees. So Income Tax Act says if the business is having less than 100 employees, no deduction will be given for expenditure on holiday home. It will be given only if the business is having more than 100 full-time employees. Next one is presentation of articles. Many a time, a business will give gifts or presentations to promote the business as an advertisement. So any gift given or presentation given to promote the business will be allowed as deduction. Next one is entertainment expenditure. Actual amount spent on entertainment, that will be allowed as deduction. Next one is advertisement expenditure. Regarding advertisement expenditure, Income Tax Act says revenue expenditure incurred on advertisement will be allowed. Capital expenditure incurred on advertisement not allowed. Similarly, advertisement made in a souvenir or pamphlet published by a political party, then it will not be allowed. For example, a souvenir or magazine or pamphlet is published by a political party and the business has given the advertisement in that souvenir, in that magazine, Income Tax Act says no deduction. Next one is professional tax. When professional tax is paid, it will be allowed as deduction. Next one, expenditure on guest house, it will be allowed as deduction. Expenditure for training apprentices. So a business will spend some money on the training of the employees, that will be allowed as deduction. Preliminary expenses. The expenditure incurred before the incorporation of the company is called preliminary expenses. The preliminary expenses deduction will be made in two steps. The first step is qualifying amount. Qualifying amount is list of the following two amount: actual amount spent or 5% of the project cost. Whichever is least is the qualifying amount. 20% of the qualifying amount will be allowed as deduction. Suppose 1 lakh rupees are spent, so qualifying amount is 1 lakh. 20% of 1 lakh, 20,000. So 20,000 rupees will be allowed as deduction for preliminary expenses. Last one, losses. If the losses suffered by the SSC is revenue in nature, it is unavoidable, then such losses are allowed. So Income Tax Act says we have to see whether it is a capital loss or revenue loss. Revenue loss means it is unavoidable loss. That means expected, this may happen. So If it is a revenue loss which is unavoidable to the business, it will be allowed as deduction. So for losses, we are given loss of stock due to natural calamity like flood or earthquake, like that. So due to natural calamity, some stock is lost, that will be allowed as deduction. Similarly, loss due to exchange rate fluctuation. Many multinational companies will deal in foreign currencies and the exchange rate will not remain same always. There is fluctuation in the exchange rate. So a company may incur loss due to foreign exchange fluctuation rate. That loss is a revenue loss, it will be allowed as deduction. Last one, loss arising from the negligence or dishonesty of the employee. If the employee has made a dishonesty or negligence, the loss incurred will be allowed as deduction. So in this video, I have explained you all the remaining deductions. So if you have watched all these deductions, then definitely you don't find any difficulty while solving the problem on computing the profits and gains of business and profession. So inshallah, we will continue our discussion in the next video.